right, what is up, y'all? It's episode 12 of the podcast of Your Household Rules. Sorry about that. Got a little tongue-tied, we got some stuff that we're going to talk about this week. We were going to get in. We had a couple conflicts of interest going on this week, so we weren't able to record. We were going to cover the NCAA tournament championship, but at this point, it's kind of been like 2 days afterwards, and there wasn't really much to talk about. UConn kind of ran away with it like everyone thought it was. I thought FAU might be able to pull up a little bit of an upset, and I was just going against the grain because everything that I had said ended up going the opposite. So it still held true to the very end. UConn ended up winning the whole thing. Kind of just ran over everybody. I don't think anybody was there for within like 15 points of them, were they?
Not. I mean, it didn't feel like it. That's for sure.
No, I think I remember I was watching the end of the game and like I went to the bed during the national championship game with like a couple minutes left to go in the fourth quarter, like maybe halfway, 3 full quarters of the way through or something like that, or a quarter of the way through. And all of a sudden, San Diego State started coming back a little bit. I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to watch this. And then they kind of like got up there a little bit, got into like single digits, and then just went right back down to where they were. So never really got close, but that is what it is. We're going to end up talking about this UFC WWE merger or whatever. And if you don't know what that is, Endeavor, the owner of UFC, recently just signed a new contract to, it's not a merger, but they're buying the WWE. And there's a lot of people who are kind of not liking this. There's a couple people who think this is really good. It's definitely going to help them fatten their pockets, because I know one thing that I saw on this article that I read that was WWE, when it comes to like live production or whatever, they're like kind of top tier when it comes to that type of stuff. When it comes to like the like TV mixed with like Logan Paul was playing at SoFi Stadium in LA this past week, fighting there, and fucking I was watching. I like Mike Malak. I was watching his fucking Snapchats, and like just the production that they had going for that was crazy. So there's some good, there's some bad, but where are you kind of standing with it, Stolzy?
I'm for the most part, I'm kind of just at the place where it's like, if you don't know what's going on, just follow the money, and that'll give you most of your answers that you need. Like whether or not they're even trying to make these two leagues.
I read that they're not trying to merge them in whatsoever.
Okay, yeah.
Except for like advertisement type stuff. Like they're going to advertise UFC on WWE and vice versa. Yeah. And also I saw that WWE was almost definitely going to go back to pay-per-view now. So there's that.
Another thing that I was like kind of surprised about when I was reading the article is the fact, like, and I would have lost money on this bet, but the fact that the WWE is valued less than the UFC.
Yeah. Well,
I didn't think that would be that.
I think that's because of the international market. I would imagine that might be. I mean, I know that they just had like the championship of WWE. The WWE, it was over in Saudi Arabia, but like when it comes down to it, fighting is kind of like a universal. It's just like such a genuine sport to like I want to say like men, almost like there's something about just watching two men get into a fucking, or women actually, fucking getting into a cage and just beating the shit out of each other. It's there's something so pure about it.
It's our gladiators.
Yeah, and like the WWE is obviously shocking. I hope all you realize this is scripted. Fucking, it's not real. So I think that would kind of give it the edge. What? But I think that would that's kind of the reason why UFC might have the edge on it when it comes down to it. So, there's a whole bunch.
Overall, like I don't think it's a bad thing. Like I don't think it's gonna make the UFC be like a scripted thing now. Like, you know what I mean?
That's one of the things that I'm a little bit worried about, because like we were just talking about before the podcast, UFC obviously does have its like kind of like the rigging in the we're talking about in the NFL or whatever. There's definitely a bias to some people in the organization, right? So like a perfect example was Paddy the Baddy. Paddy Pimblett, his last fight, which I watched down in Tennessee, he did not win that fight. There was no way. It went to decision, and they ended up giving him the decision, and it's because he brings so much money into the UFC that he won that fucking fight. And when it comes down to it, everything's scripted. I know that the WWE has some sketchy business tactics from what I understand, and I'm not very trustworthy with Vince McMahon, okay? So apparently he's going to be the chairman of this new company that is starting at the top. something Khan. I can't remember his name. I'm not a big WWE guy. He's going to be the head of WWE, and then UFC is still going to be head by Dana White.
I mean,
So
bro, Vince McMahon is 77 years old, still doing steroid full cycles. Like, I don't trust you.
yeah,
Your heart is going to explode at any fucking minute.
and it's for
Like,
it's for that reason that I think, because even though we already have our bias for UFC fighters, I think that it's going to be just that much worse. And when you're talking about like some of these big name stars, Patty's not necessarily getting the acknowledgement that he needs because he's not necessarily performing. People are realizing that he might not be the guy. You got people like Conor McGregor who came in and fucking almost revolutionized the sport. Like, is the biggest thing that the sport's ever seen. Also the fucking why can't I think of his name right now? Fucking the Eagle, fucking Dagestani dude, Khabib. Yeah. Khabib, a huge name or whatever. These guys like aren't really fighting anymore. And Conor McGregor's stance like not really doing as well as he used to. So it kind of makes me think that they're not having the same amount of views and it's starting to fall down. So they need a way to do it. So if shit starts getting a little bit too good to be true with the UFC, I think this might be why. So that's my personal opinion. It's a long shot, but from what I understand and what I've read is they're just kind of merging the company for advertisement type things. One's not really going to affect the other. So
yeah, they'll still be like mutually exclusive things.
yeah, I'm not sure how it works. They don't even have a name for the fucking company yet. So I mean, when it comes down to it, there's still a lot that needs to pan out before we actually see what this becomes. So, but they did reassure me that we're not going to see John Jones fight like the WWE champion. This is how out of touch I am with the WWE. I have no idea.
Well, I mean, this is probably like Connor's avenue into it's probably honestly what it might be now that I think about it is it's like the avenue for UFC fighters after they're done in the UFC.
Yeah.
Like you go to the WWE, you already have a following, you have an established fan base.
Yeah.
Now we don't have to build anything once you get there. It would just be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And you could spill over old rivalries.
I mean,
you could do all kinds of stuff with it.
They've already kind of done that. It hasn't been like linked. The
right, like Ronda Rousey did it.
Ronda
Brock
Rousey,
Lesnar.
Brock Lesnar was in the WWE. Then he came over to fight UFC. Couldn't do UFC because of I think chest. And went back over to WWE. CM Punk tried to fight in the UFC.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. CM Punk
did not work out well for him. And that's another thing that we'll see too. If fucking the WWE, if some of those fighters start like coming over and trying to fight in the UFC because of this, and they start winning, I'm calling bullshit on that. Yeah.
You know that GIF, the "Bye Forever." That's me to WWE wrestlers if they go to the UFC.
Yeah, don't do that. But I mean, it's just one thing that I don't really like seeing it because I've been a notorious hater for professional wrestling, whatever league that it is, forever. I don't like scripted sports. Fucking, there's already enough he said, she said in the fighting world that we don't need to bind one of the purest fighting sports that we still have, because boxing is super rigged. But fucking but the pure sports that we have in the UFC now is getting mixed with one of the most unpure fucking sports, if you want to call it that. I'm not a huge fan of the move, but then again, I might just be looking a little bit too deeply into it and fucking letting my past thoughts bleed into this new organization. So, yeah, I don't know. You got any closing comments on that or anything else you want to say about it?
It's all about the money.
Yeah,
money.
it's always about the money.